Welcome to the channel, everybody. I just wanted to start off with a medical disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional. I'm just someone who's on TRT sitting here willing to talk about it. Um, let's start off with, are you ready for testosterone? Well, if you go and buy this with your part-time job and you get a bunch of syringes and you get everything you need to do it and all that shit, you're more than likely going to get found out by your parents. They're going to throw it out. They're going to maybe threaten to kick you out of the house. They're going to call you a junkie. Your mom's going to cry. Um, your dad's going to be all pissy with you. Like, the reality is it's not really worth the risk. If you have parents that you think would potentially be okay with it, then talking to them and make them aware of it is, the right step to make before just pulling the trigger and just doing it behind their backs. It's, not the same as getting caught with the freaking joint. It's, they aren't going to understand. They're not. Are you financially ready to burden yourself with, the cost of vials? This is pennies on the dollar for compared to protein and, just workout supplements altogether. And, they're not going to be as effective, those like supplements, if your testosterone's low. So, that is one thing to consider, that it is going to cost something. So you got to buy syringes, alcohol wipes. You're gonna have to at least have Luer locks to draw your fluids, and then one to inject your fluids, and dispose of your syringes and everything that comes along with injecting yourself. That being another thing being said would be, are you ready for the commitment? A lot of people inject at different dosages, different frequencies, and I started off with once every 2 weeks, then it was once a week, then it was every like 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, and now I'm down to 1 days. This was over months span where I just was like dividing my dosages, figuring out exactly what was working for me. And what I found with microdosing every single day was you get this just consistent hormone balance. I got the least amount of side effects I could possibly get. I don't have any like spikes and drops. There's a commitment to injecting once a day, every day. I just usually just do it with my morning routine and start my day. And simple as that. If I'm gonna do peptides and stuff like that, there's a chance that I might do them in the evening as well, which is a second pin in a day. So I pin every once to twice a day, potentially, what I'm doing with my regimen at that moment. Some people just can't handle the thought of injecting themselves. So if you're going to be counting on a girlfriend or a buddy, somebody else to be, doing it all the time, or going into a doctor to get it done every single time, it's going to be a major inconvenience. It's not like the most feasible thing to choose. So that is something that you need to be prepared for, is injecting yourself and, not being scared of a syringe, which for me was never really a big deal. I tried injecting with a little bit bigger gauges. Like I was injecting with like a 23 gauge, and I'd find that I'd put my syringe down for about an hour and just be like, not ready to do it yet. And I went to 25s, and it was a little better. I'd like go to poke myself a couple times and get close and just am I gonna hit a nerve, something? And so I started using insulin syringes, where I pop the back out, take what I filled into my syringe, backfill it, pop the syringe back in, flip it, push it in, wait for it to get down so I'm not pushing any of the needle with an airlocked bubble, and set it to the top. And then just literally just, go through the process of injecting yourself with that, whether that be sub-Q or intramuscular. Doesn't really matter. Whatever you choose is what you choose. I've done a bit of both. The absorption rate is about the same, so it's not like a huge difference if you're doing intramuscular or sub-Q. Sub-Q can be a little more uncomfortable, depending on what muscle you inject into. Can be a little more uncomfortable too, depending on what you're doing. If you choose to do muscle, so that's another thing to consider. And then with going and injecting every 2 weeks, you get this spike and this drop, and you'll get that with anywhere like down to like 4 days, 1 to 3 days. You're gonna see the least amount of fluctuation, where you're not getting these like spikes, drops by your next injection. Usually within those three, you will definitely kind of keep that consistency a bit more. I find that, every day is just a, more foolproof way of just making sure that it's always consistent. And if you want to gradually change anything, you can do it by a little amount consistently until you kind of hit your desired amount. And it's easy enough. But it is commitment. And, if I was to ever want to get off of this, then it's not just drop the vial, throw it out, I'm done. I would have to like decline my dosage over a certain amount of time, then take something like HCG, or if I'm still like willing to inject. If I'm not, then like something like clomiphene, which again is not the same as testosterone. You will have a cap. It's not like it'll be like a high dose. It'll just stimulate your body to create testosterone again, and then you're gonna it's gonna you're gonna start injecting a peptide basically instead of testosterone, and try and keep it, and switch on to it as you're getting off of the testosterone at a low dose, and then just switch to the HCG and continue out with that, and then hoping that your natural testosterone even comes back, because there's not 100% guarantee that it will, and it might never. And if your numbers were already tanked to begin with, I mean, that's just what it is. And again, like, all personally never get off testosterone. The outcome of the benefits of quality of life to ratio to not doing it all are substantially different. I always had major back pains, like lower back pains especially. Never had a back injury in my life, not one severe enough to cause anything like that. And I thought it was just my genetics, my line of work, simple as that. I'm not ever gonna get out of it. And I didn't, even when I was getting on testosterone, it had nothing to do with that even going away. I was just like, I have low energy, fatigue. I had drive for work, and like my own personal goals a bit, right? For sure. Like, I was always kept my head down at work, and tried to excel with that. And it just, I had irritability issues sometimes, and I thought that was just like a maybe I had high testosterone. I didn't get blood work. You're gonna get blood work. That's the biggest suggestion I can like really make at all, is stay consistent with your blood work. I get it now, and I didn't used to get it, and I didn't get it beforehand, and so I don't know where my baseline is. And if you don't know where your baseline is, or what potentially might be going on beforehand, then you're playing off of something where you've already started injecting an exogenous testosterone, and some of your numbers are going to raise, and you're going to have to play with like what's going to help if you're doing more than the clinically suggested amounts. So like, I started off with 250 milligrams of testosterone at like 138 pounds, and I gained 20 pounds within the first month, maybe. Looked a lot healthier, felt a lot better, and sitting around 180 now. And I'm not trying to like get massive or anything like that. It's just literally just a quality of life for me. So it's made a huge difference in just absolutely everything. Shoulders widened out, jawline sharpened up. My facial hair was never growing in that great. It's grown a lot better. I started growing facial hair at a young age, but it just never filled out. Body hair was never an issue. Libido was never an issue. Erectile dysfunction was never an issue, thank God. And so, yeah, that's just the reality. For me, it was just like the things that drove me were just the low energy, a little bit of mental fog and things like that. And then the back pain thing was just like a total bonus. Like, I didn't realize that could even be something that could have caused it. Really, was just like aches and pains, joint pains, and really like low testosterone. Your body lowers in testosterone as you age, so it makes sense that you would feel like a 60-year-old man at like 19, 20, 21, all the way up till like 27 when I got on it. If you have low testosterone, and I didn't have really the greatest upbringing as a young kid. I was a bit of a degenerate, and put a lot of chemicals in my body and being an idiot at a young age. And once I like continued starting to like train and be like healthy and stuff like that, it didn't change anything. Like, it's like I still didn't see any sort of progression over years spans. It really, my body was just not doing well, and on most like cases, I was just like not able to put on weight. It was just, appetite was there, but it was never as good as it should be. My sleep was shit for years, and this, totally changed my life in that sense. So again, it's definitely something to consider. You gotta be prepared to, for the commitment and the financial burdens of it. If you're not insured or if you're not going through a doctor, I recommend if you want to go to a doctor and stack on after that. I mean, that's one way to do it. You know, you're always going to get a good product at that way of going about it. You always get your blood work when you want it. But it is important to get your blood work before you start, during on it, especially if you're high dosing, and after when you lower your dose, and just make sure that you're stable. Unless you are continuously keeping the same dose year round, then doing it once to 3 times a year is probably the minimal amounts that you'd want to get your blood work taken, and just stay the like make sure you're staying healthy. And it's just worth doing if you're actually serious about keeping your like testosterone in the plan, and making sure that your health markers are in good range, because you don't want to try to like benefit your life by just hurting your life. Like you don't this in theory could add years to your life if you're doing it in a smart way, versus take years off your life. If you want to be like this massive human being, then there's a chance you're going to deplete a little bit off, especially if you're taking all sorts of steroids. But that's kind of just whatever you pick and choose and what you desire in your journey. So for me, it's a big quality of life, and it does really like play a big role in how I'm living today versus how I would be if I wasn't on it. I'd be bed a lot earlier. I have 4 daughters, and I would not not be able to keep up between work and just life, the obstacles of life, and then on top of like taking them to their sporting activities and everything else. It would have been way too much. Like I just could not. I didn't have the energy. I had the drive to do what I need to do, but can't do it if you're just falling asleep in the spot, like, and then not be able to sleep at the same time. Um, it was just a total nightmare in some senses. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, like and subscribe. Please leave your questions in the comments.